My name is Lachlan Wall. I'm 18 years old, and this is the very beginning of my story, I believe. Or maybe I'll look back on this as the beginning of my story, but as we sit here now, I suppose it's really the middle of my story. So, I finished high school last year, and I decided that I would take a gap year. I was big on academia and all of that through high school, and leadership. I was a school captain, and I decided to take a gap year, have a year away from the study, the leadership, all of that fun stuff. And I never really decided what I wanted to do in that gap year. I said, yeah, I want to go and travel around Europe. I want to, I've had the idea of driving my car Pierre from Singapore to London and all sorts of crazy ideas. And it's now midway through February, so, there goes a month and a half that I haven't really properly utilised. And it's starting to get to me, but so I had the idea, or me and my father, or me and I decided to pursue the idea of going to the UK for work. And that sounded terrific. I've heard of lots of people doing it before, and that's what I, went, yeah, let's go to the UK and get a job. And then after a couple of weeks of pursuing that, I went off that. Decided, oh no, everyone goes to the UK, no. Pretty much I didn't want to put in the work. And so I just set it on the back burner. I then decided that I would go to Vietnam for a job after a chat with my dad again. We had family that were expats in Vietnam, and so I decided, oh yeah, let's see if we can hunt down some work there. And I did. I got in contact with a couple of people, and then decided, you know what, I'm going to be paid this much money, where in Australia I'm getting paid so much more. Here I've just left my fourth job, but currently working 3 jobs. One at a lovely Hatched restaurant, the other at a cafe and the local golf club. And so I'm getting a good amount of money here, and I looked at Vietnam and just assumed, oh, I'm not going to get paid very much there. Why don't I just work here? I'm just conscious of the sound, because I'm sitting out in an exposed field in the lovely regional park. Thought, oh, I'm going to get paid bugger all. Why don't I just work in Australia and then go on a couple of holidays? And I went, oh yeah, that sounds alright. Sat down, I watched the 2008 Top Gear Vietnam special, and then went, you know what, I'm going to ride a motorbike from north to south across Vietnam. I convinced my friend Liam to do the same thing, and he was on board. And this was mid last week. And I have just hopped off the phone as of about 20 minutes ago with a lady called Nikki, who works for the business that I was trying to work for in Vietnam. And I just had a chat to her about, the very basic idea of working in Vietnam, 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. A lot of work, doesn't sound like much holiday. But, and I think that sounds like a rough deal. I thought, going overseas, working in a restaurant, doing the same work that I'm currently doing 8-hour days, 6 days a week. I get 1 day off per week. I thought, oh, is that really what I want to do? And you know what? I just said yes. I said, yep, I'll do it. And I said to her, 3 months. Welcome to Australia. This is flies everywhere. But I said yes to her. I said, yeah, I'll do 3 months. She said, perfect. Let me go and chat to Peter, who's the person who I've been mostly talking to. Find out a little bit more information for me. And I said to her, mid-March, I'll be there. That was as spontaneous. Well, it's not really spontaneous. Spontaneous would be hopping on the plane this afternoon and flying to Vietnam. But in terms of just saying to somebody, yeah, my plan was, I just discussed with Dad the other day that my plan would be work here, travel, and now, after one phone call of what sounded like miserable work, I said, yeah, sign me up for 3 months doing that. Mid-March, I dropped a highlighter on my calendar the other day when my acquaintance Tim was around. He's one of my friends. It landed on the 17th of March, and I thought, yeah, alright, 17th of March, and you know what, I almost booked a flight then and there, but didn't. However, I would like to think that by 17th of March, it's now the 19th of February, 17th of March, maybe I'll be in Vietnam working. And, it may not be the most fun work, but it's an adventure, and I think that it's something to look back on and be glad that I said yes to it, because at the end of the day, how many people can say that they held a job in Vietnam working on a resort? I'm just thinking about, going to university. I've been accepted to the University of Technology, Sydney, for mechanical engineering, and I've deferred that. So taken a gap year and said I'll be back in 2021 to commence that. And I was thinking, what if I rock up there? Oh, what have you done over the last year? I've been working in Vietnam at a resort. There's something romantic about international work that kind of draws me to it, and I think that will be one of the big things that I get out of this. And I love Mudgee. I mean, look at this. I'm just sitting here on a lovely afternoon down by the river, and I have a fantastic job at a Hatted restaurant where I'm one of 3 waiters, and it's a very privileged position that I hold there. I absolutely love working there. I work at a golf club, which I quite enjoy. Easy work, bit more money. And at a cafe, which is, that's just a bog standard job, but 3 days a week there, 8 hours, $500 in cash I get. And it's quite easy. I have food, I have accommodation. By that I mean living with my parents. And look, all of my friends have gone to university, except for 2 of my closer friends who have stayed here, and they're both going to work for the next year. One of them's currently doing an apprenticeship as a kitchen maker. The other one's working at Bunnings, and I don't really want to finish my gap year and, rock up to university and people go, oh, what did you do last year? And I go, I worked, nothing else. What did you do? I rode from the top to the bottom of Vietnam. I bought a motorbike and, did the Cape to Cairo. I had some sort of an adventure at least. And maybe I end up having 2 years off, 3, who knows. But at this stage I've just signed up to work overseas in Vietnam at a resort, and I think that that's pretty special in my opinion. Daunting. I feel quite uncomfortable now. I have to go home and have a chat to Mum and just go, had a chat to this resort lady, and see where we go from there. What I do next year, it's still not quite set in concrete. And for a long time, I was here in just down there further on in the park about a year ago with my two friends, actually three friends. One of them was from Norway, the other one was from Finland, and the third one I'd grown up with. And we were planning a trip where I drove from Singapore to London, to Norway, where my best friend lives. And I said, oh, no, you won't do that. I was like, yes, as soon as I leave, finish the HSC, as soon as I put down my pen, I'm hopping in my car and I'm going to ship it to Singapore and I'll be off. Here I am, 3 or 4 months after I finished the high school certificate here in Australia. And I'm still here in Mudgee, still driving around. There's a road over that way. It's called Rocky Waterhole, and I would say that I've driven that road over 100 times in the last year. I don't live on that road. I have absolutely nothing to do with that road. But every time I go down the street or go to work or anything along those lines, every time I go out in my car, I'll find a playlist, I'll put on some good music, and I'll go, you know what, let's just go for a lap around Rocky. That's what we call it, Rocky Waterhole. And it's lovely. I thoroughly enjoy it. But for me, I think it's time to move. I'm feeling as though I'm left behind, and at Zen House, the Hatted restaurant that I work at, I often chat to people, and the reaction that I get for having a gap year is, oh, that's going to be fantastic, you're really going to enjoy that, so glad that you're taking a gap year, make the most of it. The other response that I get is, why on earth would you waste a year? Dads always say, oh, it's not wasting a year, there's no race to get anywhere, you just enjoy the journey that you're taking. But as I sit here still in Mudgee, far from the perception I had of this gap year, I can't help but think that I'm wasting years. My friends are currently doing O Week, orientation week, doing all sorts of parties and, well and truly getting their life on the road. And here I am at a cafe, a golf club, and a nice restaurant. And I go, I'm being left behind. But I was hung up from Nikki, who is a lady who organises the resorts in Vietnam. I thought, I'll search up, a good vlogging camera, interested in making some videos, this and that. Thought, bugger it, let's just pick up my phone, go down to the park and take a video. So that's exactly what I've done. I've just shared a few of my thoughts, and next time I get some news, I'll pull out my phone and I'll capture another video. Cheers.